Well, hello, hello. I am so excited to see your two smiling faces. Welcome to A Matter of Life and Dex, where we talk about all things storytelling. My name is Libby Magliolo. I help folks build better presentations.
Hi, Libby. I'm Eric. I'm the founder of Gather Round. I also help folks build better presentations.
Whoa, it's almost like this was by design. And we have one of our favorite humans on today, and I'm so excited. We have Rachel Kennedy on today. Rachel Kennedy is not only the person that introduced Eric, me, and you, but was the person that brought my husband to Texas and recruited him to Texas. And depending on the day, I either thank her or curse her, depending on how the dishwasher loading went that morning and all of that. So, anyway, Rachel, welcome. Tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, and all that good stuff.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It is so fun to be in the same virtual room as both of you, two of my other favorite humans. I'm Rachel Kennedy, based in Dallas. I am a brand strategist. I help people build brands, both personally and as a company. And I do a lot of that on LinkedIn. So similar to both of you, I love messaging, storytelling, and branding just so that we get the right people to come into our lives and into our businesses. And I'm so delighted to be a person that has put the two of you in the same virtual room.
Yes, absolutely. And can you, Eric and I were talking about this about you, that you, despite all of your talents, one of your truest, biggest talents is that you're a connector of people. And you seem to have the biggest network of anyone that either of us know, but also you seem to have an ability to match people up based on interests and goals and skill sets. Is that something that has come naturally to you or something that you developed over a career in recruiting? Is that just Rachel being Rachel? Tell us about that skill.
Well, thank you. It brings me so much joy to know that I was able to be a small part in somebody's life. As a recruiter, it was really a joy to work with somebody at a college who became an intern, who grew up into a manager. And so being a small part of somebody's career trajectory was really wonderful. And I found that I've built relationships and networks within my college community, within the Dallas community, within professional communities. And I think as I think about my network visually, there are so many commonalities, and ultimately it's just they're all cool people who need to know other cool people. I have a no jerks rule. So if you're a jerk, we can't work together. And I won't connect you with anyone else. But if you're a cool, awesome person who is giving and wonderful and interesting, I would love to connect you with somebody else. So that was really fun, I think, thinking about you and Eric both being entrepreneurs, both being in Dallas, both being in different college teaching capacities, and also with your similar value proposition of helping leaders build better presentations, whether that's with Dex or without them. I saw a lot of alignment between the two of you. And so I felt like you needed to be in the same room.
Well, much appreciated. Okay, I have one quick follow-up question then, because I feel like so many people feel about networking that it can feel smarmy or just like not the networking is kind of a dirty word, but you do it in a way that feels so genuine that you have a true love of just connecting people. So can you give us a piece of advice of how we can emulate networking, connecting people in a way that doesn't feel gross or transactional or where we're just looking for something out of it? What would be your piece of advice of how we can all go about that?
Yeah. When I first started my business, I asked every entrepreneur and every business developer, what does it take to build a business? And like, how do you network and how do you connect with people? I don't know how to sell. And she said, look, just add value. Start by adding value and helping others. And so I really kept that in my head of like, okay, how can I add value to this person before I want to sell to them or push anything out? How can I help? Is it connecting? Is it with advice? Is it with guidance? Is it just being a good listener? How can I add value? And then when I connect people thinking like, here's how Libby adds value. She absolutely rocks at amazing dumb jokes. She is a fantastic mom, and she is great when it comes to presentations. Eric, super dumb dad jokes, great at people giving presentations. Like there's alignment there. And so when I make those introduction emails, I'm writing about them personally and where that overlap is, just so they know where each other can add value right off the bat.
I
Yeah.
love that. Eric, can I quickly point out that she said about my jokes that they were dumb, but your jokes were super dumb. So I was tuned in there. Okay, Eric, you talked about how we're all in recovery from something.
Yes.
Tell me more about how the three of us are in recovery.
Well, okay, so we just realized we have this in common, right? Like, Libby, you have this journey and you're recovering from your consulting background, and you have found your way to storytelling and communication, improving communications as a means for better human connection. I'm recovering from advertising. So I have that in my background. I got tired of selling diapers and Skittles for a living, and I'm putting my energy into helping leaders connect with other leaders and their teams and paint a picture of their vision. Rachel, you are also recovering, and you're using that to springboard into your adventure that's ahead of you. What are you recovering from?
I spent my entire career in talent acquisition as a recruiter, both working in construction at the Beck Group and then the Container Store. And at the end of the day, I found that, after asking, why are you applying here? Why are you applying here? There's 1,000 employers. The answer always came back. It's the brand. It's what it feels like to work inside. We have a good reputation. I've heard good things about working here. And so I just thought, gosh, the story and the brand really matters when it comes to attracting talent. And so how can we expand the brand? How can we get more people to talk about it? Because that's why people apply. That's what people want, is they want to work with other cool people, and people work with people they know, like, and trust. And so I have been in the corporate world, helping recruit. And now I work as a consultant to corporations, helping them figure out, how do we get more people to tell our story so that we can attract aligned talent faster.
Okay, and I'm so glad you said this, because I've heard you say this before, and I want to unpack it with you. You mentioned getting employees to tell the story of the company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that sounds like a really tall task. That sounds very challenging. How do you do that? And what's the alternative to it? Like, what happens if you don't put a shoulder behind that?
Yeah. When I worked for the Container Store, we had big needs in hiring technologists, and people didn't really think about the Container Store retail with like high tech. So it was really challenging to try to attract software developers, Java developers, IT managers. But I worked with our IT team, and I just said, like, hey, what's really cool about working here? And one of the things they said was, well, we have the 4th of bacon. And I was like, okay, what's the 4th of bacon? They're like, well, on the 4th of July, like, because we have to work and make sure there's no outages, we all bring bacon themed dishes. We're talking like bacon muffins and bacon wrapped dates, and we have bacon cookies, and the whole team gets into it, and we all dress up, and it's just a really fun day. It's actually one of my favorite days of the year. And I thought, cool. So to work on a holiday sucks, but you're making it fun, and the whole team gets into it, and there's costumes, and everybody brings food, and like, that's a really cool story to tell. And so we worked with them on like, well, hey, let's go share that story outside the company walls. Could you just make a post about the 4th of bacon? And it really helped with like getting our developers, who are usually very heads down, kind of to look up and look out and say like, oh, we could tell the story of why it's cool to work here in an industry where people don't often think about our roles, and then start attracting talent, because people want to work with cool people. People work with people they know, like, and trust. And so the more our people can tell our story, and that's what I call employee advocacy, the bigger our brand is, and it's been spoken through these authentic voices. So I think it really starts with knowing your story and then showing your story. It's knowing the 4th of bacon is kind of unique and kind of weird, but really cool. And we've got a tight team who gets behind it, and then showing it, giving our people the tools and the confidence to go share it and understand why that's important to ultimately attract more talent in the doors.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And then you have to show the 5th of naps, right? Obviously, like that's the follow-up. Yeah, super dumb dad joke. That was that one. That's what that was.
So Rachel, you mentioned that you have to know your story and then show your story. So if you're thinking about a big company like Beck Group or Container Store or any big company, where do you even start? How do you reduce and contain a company that's huge and multifaceted and does a million things and has different revenue streams and 10,000 employees? How does a company like that even start to figure out what their story is?
Yeah, that's a great question. We usually start by talking to the people inside of it. In particular, I worked with an engineering company, and they're like, we're struggling to hire. And I was like, okay, what's the story? They're like, I don't know. We've been around 100 years. And I was like, you and every other engineering company too. And so I had a lot of conversations internally, and I said, hey, why do you work here? Why do you work here? Why do you come in day after 18 years? Why are you still here? And the answer was consistent. The answer was, they care about me. We work hard, we play hard. And ultimately, like, I have work-life balance. And I was like, yeah, everybody says that. What does that mean? They said, well, one guy said, there's a meeting if I work over 40 hours. Like, we kind of talk about why that happened and how to mitigate that so that I have more of a balance, and I'm not here as much. And I was like, an engineering company really cares enough to have a meeting if you go over 40 hours a week? Like, that's unbelievable. And I kind of pulled at that thread. And so we found out, like, this company is very serious about work-life balance. And so that really became one of the threads that we talked about in their employer branding. We put it on their career site. We talked about it in interviews. We put it in all their marketing materials because that was true and that was real. And that is a part of their story, and they're actually living it. So going back to your question, like, where do you start? I think you start by talking to your people and really pressure testing those messages. And the message for them was, we're serious about work-life balance, and to the point where we can back it up by having these meetings. Once you know it, then you can show it. You put it on your website, you talk about it in interviews, you put it in your marketing material, and then you reinforce it in your weekly meetings. And so know it and show it. And I think start by talking to your people.
So how does that showing it work? Because that one example is an amazing example, and I think instructive of the culture as a whole. So is it finding the individual stories and then using those to paint a picture? Tell me more about how talking to people and how you kind of distill those stories into the overall company story, the overall marketing message, the overall outreach message. How does that work?
Yeah, so we have a program called our Employee Advocacy Storytelling Program, and we take a group of key people, so sales, marketing, recruiting, and bring them together and talk about, hey, here are the 4 big themes that are part of our story. So giving them the tools and then the keys to the kingdom in terms of, here's how to show it. And we're particular to LinkedIn, but our training program really talks through, like, let's make sure those themes are in your content, they're in your profile, you're talking about them, you're engaging with them, giving guardrails to people and then showing them good examples of what alignment looks like really helps people feel confident when they're able to go talk about it and show it. And I think often employees are, if they're engaged, excited and enthusiastic cheerleaders and advocates for the company, but they're not confident. They feel like they don't have the time. They don't want to sound dumb. It's a little scary. They don't want to sound braggadocious, but having some of that training and guardrails in place allows them to really shine and talk authentically about what it actually feels like. We had a superintendent, and I said, why do you work here? And he's like, I work, in Florida. The company's based in Texas, but every single event they have, they send me a shirt. I've gotten 16 shirts, over the last few years that are hanging in my closet. And I know that even though I'm not on site in the corporate headquarters with them, I know they think about me. I was like, that's a great story. And that's a great story of, like, the connectivity that you have and that company theme of, like, we're a family. Let's post about that. Let's share that story, because that ladders up into one of those core themes of family, one of those values. And that's a great living example through your mouth of feeling like you're a part of that family.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. I love that. The closet full of shirts. So Eric, you had a question. I'm just looking at our things that that we wanted to talk about. Just the idea of buying and working with people that you know, like, and trust. How can we
Yeah.
be on here today? What can we learn from that? How can we be the people that are known, liked, and trusted? I had to very quickly think about the past tense of all of those things. So hearing this, how can companies and leaders become those people, the ones that you're talking about? Do you have any thoughts or advice on that?
I think it all comes down to visibility. Often we have good intentions and want to be visible, but don't know how, don't feel like we have the time, scared of sounding dumb. Ultimately, I think if you are able to get out there, I think a lot of people put emphasis on real life networking, shaking hands. Um, Having that presence online is incredibly important and often more effective in terms of time. You can reach 1,000 people with a LinkedIn post at a time rather than, being in an in-person networking event. And I think both are important. When I started my business 5 years ago, it was in May of 2020 when there was no in-person networking. I had no website. I couldn't go to a happy hour. I couldn't shake anyone's hand because of COVID. But the one thing I did have was my LinkedIn profile. I didn't even know how to spell LinkedIn. But I made a post, and a guy I'd worked with 10 years prior saw the post that I had opened our doors and reached out, and I had my first client within 6 hours. So what I learned from that is like business actually moves when we combine these like in-person real relationships and tools and technologies together to really move the business forward. And so how do you stay visible? I think you do it by continuing what you're already doing, going to networking events and happy hours and connecting with people in real life, asking for referrals, and having visibility and having a presence online to supplement and complement those relationships.
Okay. Can you tell us more about LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn many times gets a bad rap. And I know this is what you do, but how do we show up on LinkedIn in a way that's helpful and grows our network, but is not performative or fakey or anything? So can you give us like the crash course on how we should be showing up on LinkedIn in a way that's helpful and constructive?
Yes, this is my favorite thing to talk about. I first just want to say LinkedIn is the largest B2B networking platform there is. If you are a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you are in B2B sales or marketing, it is a place you need to be because your customers are there, your competitors are there, and if you're hiring, your candidates are there as well. Not necessarily every hour, every day, but your LinkedIn profile has become more important than your website. And that's because people trust people, not brands. And so when someone's looking for a job, they may go check out the company website careers page, but then they go to LinkedIn to really think about, well, who do I know there and what are they actually saying about the company? What is it really like? And so having a presence on LinkedIn, whether you're in marketing or sales or you're hiring or you're a business leader, is incredibly important. So I think it's important to think about how do we do this, but how do we do it sustainably? LinkedIn is not a full-time job for most of us. And so I always recommend starting with your profile. Often your LinkedIn profile is someone's first impression of you, right? They may hear your name and go check you out and who is this person and what do they do? And so having a good profile, tell the story you want told is the best place to start. And so I always recommend having an updated headshot. It looks like you. It should look like you in real life and not surprise someone if you meet them in a coffee shop.
Right.
Having keyword optimized headline, those are the words below your profile. LinkedIn is a search engine, just like Google is. And so when people type in business development leader, you want your name to pop up, right? And so knowing those keywords is important. And then making sure you have updated contact information. Not everybody checks LinkedIn, but can get emails. And so Is your email address correct? Is your employer correct? Those are places that I always recommend starting. So making sure that profile is telling the story you want told. And then, starting to engage in others' comments. I think I get a lot of questions like, what do I post? And when do I post? And I'm like, that comes later. Make sure you look great and tell the story you want told. And then second, engage on people's posts that you want to be seen by. It's an incredible tool for researching, but also for visibility, what we were talking about earlier. You want to be seen by certain people. And so showing up in their world, in their network, on their posts is incredibly important for gaining more visibility.
Mm, yeah, that's a great point. So let's say that I'm totally happy in my job and I'm not looking for a job. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. What should I be doing on LinkedIn to show up, even if I'm not job searching? Because I think in many people's minds, LinkedIn means, oh, I'm looking for a job. So what should I be doing on LinkedIn if I'm totally happy and not making a career move?
Yeah, I think it depends on what your role is, because I think LinkedIn can be a really valuable news source. I think it can be a really valuable research tool if you're in business development or in sales. I think it's a really powerful personal branding tool if you are trying to elevate yourself, even within the company. I've had a woman with me at a happy hour and she said, Rachel, you got me promoted. And I was like, I don't even know you. We've never met. And she goes, I just follow your tips on LinkedIn. And I started posting about what I do at work every day. And my regional manager reviewed me and he said, we're going to promote you because I see what you're doing. I see the value you're adding. And she said, I didn't do anything differently. My job had stayed the same. What changed was my visibility. I started talking about what I was doing at work on a more public stage, and my boss noticed and promoted me. So I think we often think, what's my visibility outside the company, or do I want to get on a podcast, which absolutely happens, but often there's an internal visibility opportunity as well, where we want to be seen by our peers, by our colleagues, by our managers and leadership, just to get the credit we deserve. And so I think it's really important just to talk about what you're doing now, even if you don't want a new job. Let people know the great work that you're doing and be a value add, be a light source, be a support system, shine a light on the people around you, on the company that you're working with, on the nonprofits you work with. It doesn't have to be about you. You can be adding value to the people around you also.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. And I do want to unpack something that you mentioned earlier, which broke my recovering advertiser heart. You said people don't buy from brands, they buy from people. Can you expand on that for a minute? Because I can imagine there are some people listening right now that might think like, oh, the company's posting, I'll repost the company content. Or if I'm in a leadership role, I might think, well, I need to be promoting the brand. I need to be promoting the business. I don't need to be promoting myself. Do you see those things? And what's your advice for leaders that are in that situation?
Yeah, for sure. I think of a Venn diagram, and in one quadrant is your employer brand, the company that you work for. And this circle is you, your personal brand. And often there is an overlap, right? If you are the founder, if you are the owner, if you are deeply, deeply connected with the values of the company, those two circles will overlap a lot. Also know, there may be a day where you don't work for that company anymore. That company will exist outside of you. And so it's incredibly important to build your own personal brand so that when that day comes, you can stand on your own 2 feet and be known for something outside of what your company is known for. So whether those two circles are intricately connected or not, it's really important to build your personal brand outside of your company brand. And yeah, I think so often in B2B sales, even, yes, you're buying the product or the service that the company makes, but people are connecting with people. And ultimately, if I like you, I am much more likely to buy from you. I think about even on a Friday night looking for a great restaurant. Am I going to trust the ad that just popped up? Am I going to trust Instagram? Or Am I going to go talk to the concierge in the hotel? Am I going to ask my neighbor which pizza place? Like, I am always going to believe my neighbor, who I know and trust and like, their recommendation over 1,000 ads. And so that's why it's so important, both for personal branding outside of the company, but also because you want to be known, liked, and trusted. And you can do that through building your own personal brand.
Eric,
That's great.
people do buy some brands. I mean, Diet Coke is the finest substance ever to have been created in history. So people do buy some brands. Just
We have to put it next to Swedish Fish. We'll have to decide Diet Coke, Swedish Fish, who wins.
Swedish Fish are also. Though Swedish Fish and Diet Coke exist in the space of, I don't know where this comes from. I don't want to know where it comes from, but I've consumed so much of it over my lifetime that I have kept these companies in business. Okay,
that's their
Rachel,
Venn diagram. Don't know, don't care. Swedish Fish and Diet Coke.
Don't care. Have eaten it a lot. If folks have questions, please pop those in the chat. But as we're coming up on our time, Rachel, you gave some really good advice about LinkedIn. Tell me what folks should do if they're overwhelmed and they think, that all sounds wonderful. I'm not going to do it because I don't really know where to start. So tell us how you can maybe help these folks.
First, I want to acknowledge, if it feels hard, it is hard. And second, if it is important to you to build your personal brand and you would like assistance, connect with me on LinkedIn. I am Rachel Kennedy. Kennedy, like the president. We are not related. I have a downloadable guide to, send you, and you can do it yourself. I also have a 6-week small group coaching program. We run 3 times a year. The next one will be in January. That's leaders that really want to kind of start getting out there, but would like to do it within a community of people. So I offer those up. I also have a free weekly newsletter where I share tips, just so that people can know their story and show their story in an easier way.
And you always have funny GIFs and pictures in your newsletter, which I appreciate. So tune into Rachel's newsletter. Okay, so connect with Rachel on LinkedIn. I thought someone had a question, but Kim, you said white cheddar cheese puffs, my kryptonite. You are my kind of gal because yes, not salty or sweet, salty and sweet, Swedish Fish, cheddar puffs, all of that. Eric, do you want to ask your very important journalistic question about song choices?
I do. Rachel, I'm putting you on the spot here. I would like for you to describe your relationship with presentations by using a song title.
Father Figure by Taylor Swift.
I don't know.
Tell me more. Say more.
I drove to South Texas 2 weeks ago when Taylor Swift's new album dropped, and this song was like on repeat, and it is very explicit. Do not listen to it with your children in the car of any age. She said she wrote it after watching Succession, and the father figure is just like, you're worthless, like you're my child, but you're worthless. Anyway, I don't actually know what that has to do with the presentations, but okay. I'm thinking of song in terms of like, it's a way to convey your message. Presentations are one vehicle. It's a song, it's a vehicle to convey your message.
I'm glad that is the extent of your explanation and not like, I've got this horrible voice in my head that tells me I'm worthless and, in a vaguely British accent because it's the head of a media empire. Okay, I'll take it. Eric, I think we'll accept it on a technicality. I am fine with that. I
think so too. I would have also accepted the George Michael version, but that's all right.
Oh, wow. Okay. Deep cuts here. Okay. Rachel, if folks want to see more from you other than go into your LinkedIn profile, where else can they find you?
Yeah, my website is southernlighthouse.com. I always thought I never wanted to be an entrepreneur, but if I did, I just love this vision of a lighthouse helping ships get through rough water and get where they want to go. And I think similarly, our company likes to help individuals and companies who are in a little bit of that rough water, like not really sure how to grow or how to attract people or how to, bring in the right fit. I'm I would love to help them kind of be a light and get them where they want to go. So Southern Lighthouse is the name of our company, southernlighthouse.com. You can check out more about us.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, Rachel, we both owe you a lot, a business relationship and my husband. So thank you for both. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We love you a lot and you have tons to teach us and tons to share. So thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you for the opportunity to be with you. So grateful.
Absolutely. Well, thanks y'all for tuning in and we'll see y'all in a couple weeks. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.